Welcome to the Kayak Bass Connection podcast. We're here to talk about the Newton, Illinois tournament that just happened April 20th, 2024 with the Southern Illinois Kayak Club. This is going to be a quite unique podcast. It's somewhat dissimilar as other podcasts, as believe it or not, we have the same dominant anglers that are on the podcast tonight. Incredible. We have the winner of Newton that has won the 8 of the last Southern Illinois Kayak Club tournament trail events, and the second and third place finishers are going to be names that we all recognize. So I want to welcome back to the podcast Darren Hemker, who is joining us live from on the water. He's out of Germantown, Illinois, but he won't tell us where he's fishing at right now.
Lake X.
Says he's on Lake X, so it's live on the water. So we're glad to have you here, Darren. And then the second place finisher, Dalton Williams from Cessna, Illinois. Thanks for joining us again, Dalton. And then Jonathan Kessler out of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Good to see you again, Jonathan.
Of course.
Now, let's go over the results. So the Newton tournament was anticipated to be one of the biggest weights or biggest catches of the tournament season. That's definitely, it's one of the top bass lakes in the nation, according to BASS. And look at Darren's fishing and catching fish. What the heck? What we're talking here. So how big is it, Darren?
Oh, not very big. Maybe 13 inches.
13? All right. So I'll keep talking then. So we anticipate there'd be a lot of big fish, and there certainly was. I think the number, if I recall correctly, there were like 18 fish, was it 19 inches or above, or some really nice fish that came out. We ended up having 36 anglers in this tournament, and 169 total fish uploaded to. What the heck is going on, Darren?
Well, we're over here catching them.
Is this a setup?
I wish I could.
Do you have somebody? Are you in your living room and you just have somebody hooking on bass on that thing?
That one's a little.
What's
bigger.
going on?
It's like 14.
All right, I can't get through the intro because Darren's catching too many bass.
I'll stop catching.
All right, so we had 36. We had 36 anglers for 169 fish. Darren barely squeezed out the win from Dalton. Darren had 92.75 inches. Dalton, I hate to even ask you this question, but do you remember what the difference was between you and Darren?
Quarter of an inch.
A quarter of an inch. So those tournament anglers that are watching, there was one. If you use the measurements instead of the weight, you know what? Think a minute before you take that photograph. If you can ink a quarter inch out of that fish, it means the difference between a big payday and a somewhat decent payday, right? So a quarter inch difference between the two. And then Jonathan was right behind them at 91 and a quarter. So they had like an inch and a half that separated the first 3 positions, and I think there was a couple inches till number 4. So I would like to proclaim myself the winner, though. After I looked at Tournament X, I am the winner in the 4-fish division. I looked and I had a great tournament, but the problem was I beat myself. And I'll talk about that later today. I had more than 4 fish in the boat, but unfortunately I only had 4 that got uploaded. So good lesson learned there. So we're going to do this interview a little bit differently. I've asked these same 3 guys the questions in this head several times. So now I'm going to turn it over to them. Darren, you're just killing me here. I'm going to turn the questioning over to them and let them question the people that are beating them from day to day. But before we do that, I have to bring up this point. Caden, I'm sorry, our guest host took home a check for big bass for a monster bass. How big was that thing, Caden?
It was 6.5 pounds, 22 inches.
22
Giant.
inches. So that is a giant fish. Now Darren had a 21 incher, and I talked to Darren, slightly before the weigh-in or the measure, the tournament was up there, and he was pretty confident about that 21-inch fish that he had on top of the leaderboard. But secretly, you were just kind of sitting in the back with a big grin on your face. So that was
It was.
That's pretty sweet. That's sweet.
Hey,
All
I
right.
think we lost Jonathan.
Oh man, he'll be back on though, I'm sure.
Okay, I just want to.
We'll
There's a
get
good
him back
spot to
on. Thanks for
pause.
bringing that up. Yep.
Yeah, good spot to
All
pause.
right. So, Caden, I didn't look up your inch totals. How did you do as far as the rest of the tournament? Did you feel like it was a pretty good day for you?
It was definitely a good day. I had my trip paid for, my hotel, and my gas, so I'm happy.
Nice.
But I think
Nice.
I was just outside the top 10 with 81 inches. But
Nice.
I can always do better off that.
Yeah. And you know what? I want to bring up something that I noticed. What was it? 10 minutes out of the day, your pedal drive broke.
Yes.
You had repaired it.
Yeah, I went down a day ahead on Friday and pre-fished with Darren, and
I wonder if I could just mute Darren and
Sorry.
maybe just take him off the screen, catching fish left and right here.
Oh yeah, well we can see that he's using a chatterbait right now. So
No, that's not a chatterbait.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, but yeah, so Darren and I went and pre-fished on Friday, and we had made it through about 90% of the day, and all of a sudden I went to pedal across the main lake, and there went my drive. The prop and the drive cable came apart, and so I had tried to repair it at the hotel with JB Weld, and it seemed to be working fine. Got on the water and made it around the first curve on tournament day, and it went out. So I was paddling.
Yeah, I saw you immediately reach for the paddle right after launch, and I knew for you it was going to be a mental day. You're going to have to conquer not only the fishing but also, that frustration in your head. Which congratulations, you pulled a decent finish out despite that. So,
That was a bigger one.
yeah. Who invited him on here anyway?
That was a much bigger
disturbing.
fish. We missed him.
It's just disturbing. Hey, Dalton. Number 2 guy, the second place finisher here. So I'm gonna let you start off with the questions. Here, let's just set up some rules. You have to answer if you're asked a question. The questions can come from, they could be fishing related and not fishing related. But if you want to know something about the secrets these guys are using to be high performers every year and every tournament, do you have anything you want to throw at your fellow competitors?
What's your number one bait, Darren? I'm just throwing a random question out there for the people on watching.
Very first bait I grabbed as soon as I got to the lake today, chatterbait. I live and die by a chatterbait most days. Funny enough, though, at Newton, everybody else I talked to was talking about how they were catching fish on a chatterbait, and I didn't throw a chatterbait hardly once all day, maybe 5 minutes all day. I found my fish throwing other baits and got lucky and caught them up shallow. Everybody else was catching them on chatterbaits, and I was catching them. Actually, I caught all my keepers during that tournament were all on a Nico rig. All in less than a foot of water. Super, super shallow. I think those fish were just getting passed up. I think most people were flipping big baits into those fish, and that cold front shut them down, so they didn't want to eat a flipping bait. So I started throwing that Nico rig around, and I'm not going to lie, I bet I hooked 9 fish that I hooked and lost all over 17 inches. I'm not going to lie, I should have blown everybody out of the water in that tournament. I could not put fish in the boat, though. I was hooking them, and they'd get up underneath my kayak and just pop off. And I switched hooks finally, and after I switched hooks, I caught the 21, and I caught 18, and I caught the 19, all 3 in a row. And I think if I would have had that hook on to begin with, I probably could have ended up with close to, if not over 100 inches. I was pretty upset by the end of that tournament.
So is the Nico rig something you've been practicing with, or did you just decide at the last minute to try that?
So whenever I got to the lake, I was catching them on pre-fishing. I was catching them on jig, doing the exact same thing. So I was throwing up next to the reeds in little pockets. So like the reeds on that lake, they form their own pockets. They have like a little, say, that big of a hole in the reeds, and you flip into that hole, and that's where the fish were setting up in the day before. And I was throwing a jig up in there, and I think I caught 93 inches during practice, 93 and a quarter inches during practice, and I told everybody, I was like, hey, I didn't hold back yesterday. I beat the piss out of my fish. I was out there swinging on everything. I was not, and Caden was right next to me. I was swinging on every single hook set. I wasn't holding back at all. And
Oh no!
but then I get to the tournament, I start throwing in there, and I had 3 or 4 follow my jig out, and they wouldn't eat it. So I decided to slow it down, and I slowed it down with a wacky rig at first. And I caught one like that, and it was just not a very big fish. And I was like, well, if I throw a Nico rig, I can get it down a whole lot faster, fish a whole lot more spots, and hopefully have a better chance at catching bigger fish or faster, being able to catch more fish and therefore catching bigger fish by numbers. So I did it, and it really worked. It worked out very, very, very well.
Now, just so we can clarify what a Nico rig is, now when I hear that, I picture a wacky rigged worm with a weight in one end. Is that what you were using, or
so this is not the exact worm I was using, but this is basically exactly what I was throwing. It's just a worm hooked in the middle, and it's got a weight on this end. So whenever it sinks through the water like this, and whenever I jerk it, it kind of goes sideways. And something about that sideways pulsing action, the fish could not resist. I was using, I don't know if I have one in here right now. Believe it or not, all the baits in my kayak, and I think I took them all out. I was using a 7-inch black Zoom trickworm.
Hey, don't be telling out my secret.
Let's just. I believe Susie stayed over there also. She fished.
She did not. She went right next to me.
Was she? I thought she fished down by the dam. My bad.
Yeah, Susie Roloff, I think we had a 5th place finish. I believe had a great day.
Yeah, she had 89 inches. That's a heck of a day anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, I was catching all of mine on Cinco and crankbait.
Oh boy! Hello, I was not ready for that bite. Sorry. That's a bigger one.
I was thrilled when you said during the post game, I guess you could say, conversation, that you mentioned the C word, crankbait.
Ew.
It has been. I love to throw crankbaits. I'm bad at catching fish on crankbaits. So, what made you decide to pick up one?
Well, the very first tournament with Stick, I threw that, and that's when I got 3rd, was with the crankbait. So I just went straight back to it again. And I'm getting slowly higher. Next year, hopefully, gets 1st. If Darren stops fishing the tournaments.
I was going to say, I'll just keep showing up and put him in 2nd place. That works for me.
Yeah, 1/4 inch is not much difference. How deep of water were you throwing that crankbait in?
About 2 to 4 feet.
Okay. Just like Jonathan's fish or Darren's fish, they were shallow. Shallow.
You weren't fishing reeds though, were you? Oh boy, hello. That fish thumped the crap out of my bait.
No. Yeah, I was not fishing the reeds at all.
I'm sorry, guys.
Man, I should have went fishing.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's another 15-incher or so. Fat one, too. I love chatterbait fishing. This is where I make my money.
It's all relative. So is that 15-incher a great fish for your Lake X today?
So this lake is kind of special. It has a absolutely horrible fish profile in it. There used to be a ton of fish in the 8 to 14-inch range. A ton. I mean, you'd come out here. I had multiple 200 fish days out here, and a little bitty lake. This lake's no more than 8 acres. And there is probably 10% of the fish population is over 20 inches, though. So I actually caught my personal best out of here. I caught a 7-1 out of here on a wacky rig. And I've seen pictures of fish over 11 out of here and multiple over 9. So this lake doesn't have a whole ton of giants, but anything you hook that's over 16 inches is going to be a 20-incher, almost guaranteed. There's not a lot of 16, 17, 18-inch fish in here. There's a handful of 19s I've caught during the, I can actually here show you guys when I'm fishing here. You guys a good idea.
So I'm guessing there's not a lot of pressure there in that small body of water.
Oh, it's actually a ton of pressure. It's just all from the bank.
Is
Oh,
it?
no ring button.
Okay.
I don't know how to turn. I was going to try turning my camera, but I don't know if you can see all that. That's all duckweed and moss. All the way around the lake. It's
a
all
little fuzzy, but okay.
Yeah, sorry about
Duckweed
that.
and moss.
It's all duckweed and moss.
Yeah.
Is all this lake is. And these fish, they pull up during the summertime especially. They pull up underneath this duckweed, and you throw a frog over it. I've had two days over 100 inches, catching over 100 inches out here, all on a frog.
Okay.
That's going to be a fish. That was a great cast.
Awesome. All right, you guys have any more questions for Darren or one of your competitors?
For Darren.
Yeah. How's your truck?
It's seen better days. That damn deer, it beat me up pretty good this morning. I was driving to work. It's 5:15, 5:30, and I left the house and made it less than a mile and a half from the house and hit a deer. So that's always good.
Ooh.
Yeah. So insurance to the rescue, hopefully. We'll see how. Oh, boy, they are blowing up. Maybe I need to be throwing a frog. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I caught 3 on a frog yesterday that were over 4.
Oh, boy.
Nice.
I'm going to see if I can get a frog blow up. I wish I could get it on camera, but I don't have a way to hold the camera for you guys. That'd be a heck of a video.
Yeah, I need to get you an action cam with a helmet or something.
People wouldn't ask me twice about the helmet just because, some people think I need to wear a helmet. But
I mean, if they can see you cast a spinning reel, then I think they would understand.
You want me
I
to
agree with Dalton on that one.
You want me to cast a spinning reel for the camera?
I'm kind of curious here.
Oh,
Jonathan,
boy.
what are we gonna see?
People will think you're cheating and winning all the time if they see this, though.
Are you ready for
It's
this?
witchcraft.
So most people, almost everybody in the world, they cast a spinning reel, they open the bail, they're holding their line just like that, one hand, then they cast, right? Me, being special and all, I take it, I hold the line with this hand, I hold the rod with this hand, and I flip the rod upside down like that, and I cast. And I know you guys have absolutely no idea what just happened, but I can be so accurate and I can skip like a wacky rig so far. So actually for the tournament, I was fishing just like this all day. I had my bail closed. I'd pull the line up, flip it just 10 feet into the spot, let it sink, pop it twice, pull back up and do it again. All day. That's all I did. I don't think I caught a fish further than 10 feet from my kayak all day.
That's how I was.
So,
Now, do you think the quietness of those pedal drives helps you with that
I don't think it hurts.
versus a motor?
I do not think it hurts. That's what. So I'm really, really, really debating on getting a motor. But if I get a motor, I'm just going to use it to get from point A to point B. I'm not going to be fishing with it. It's very, very consistent in certain spots on anywhere on any lake in basically the state. There's certain spots that just hold fish. Doesn't matter what time of year it is. There's going to be fish on certain spots.
Nice. Look at that, big boy. Nice. It's a big.
That's how
mouth.
they're supposed to eat it. It's still another 14-inch fish though. I'll find a 20 here hopefully. Let's see.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the great things about the new sponsorship that we have. You got with the tournament, Darren, you got a big Z Pro Lithium.
Oh yeah, so I got the $100 gift certificate to Z Pro. So
Yeah.
I'm more than likely going to be investing in a motor.
Uh-huh.
Once I figure out how to get my kayak registered the correct way and get my truck fixed up, I think motor is going to be my next addition. I'm going to be probably going to the NK 300. So. Would you guys rather me just spend it on stupid stuff or invest it back?
Can we just kick him out?
Oh, don't worry. I'll just wait. I'm gonna beat you on caffeine this year.
So, Darren, I was looking at on Tourney X the last several years worth of stats for the Southern Illinois Kayak Club, and the club has been different sizes throughout the years. I think when I joined, it was like in the mid 30s, and now it's up. I think they had 60 memberships they opened up or something like that.
I think that's what he sold, 65. Yeah.
But up until about a year and a half ago, there have been some names that appeared on the winners list, more than once. Kessler Jonathan is obviously up there a few times, but I could not find any more dominant angler over the history that I could find in Tournament X than you are right now. So that, to me, that is everybody that shows up is worried about beating you.
I don't really like the target on my back.
Yeah. I mean, you're the one. Everybody. Do you feel any added pressure, like people following you or anything like that?
I have no issue. If somebody wants to fish with me all day, stick to my side and fish with me all day, I'll talk to you. I have absolutely no issue with it. Sorry, I keep missing fish. So I have no issue with it. So when that last tournament, we got back to the boat ramp, and even talking to people on the water, multiple people were like, "Oh, I think I got you beat today," because Newton's a really good lake, and little did they know, I knew I had a really nice limit. I didn't think I was going to win it. I'm not going to lie. I 100% was expecting top 3. I didn't expect first. And when people were coming in and saying, "Oh, they got mid 80s with 5 fish, 87, 86," I was like, okay, there's a decent chance. And then I kind of go through my head, and so I don't know any of the new guys yet. I talked to 1 or 2 of them here and there, and I don't know how they fish yet. So in my mind, I was thinking of all the people that I know can do really good the way that bite was. So I had certain people in my mind that I was going through, and I was like, okay, I beat him. Oh, I beat him. I beat him. I beat him. And the only person left that I didn't know if I beat, because he was kind of being quiet, was old Dalton. He was being real quiet and wasn't saying a whole lot. And I found it absolutely hilarious at the end of the tournament during the awards when Josh announces it, and everybody, I say everybody, at least Dalton and Dustin, I don't know who else was in on it, they all thought they had me beat. He had me beat, but little did they know I beat him by a quarter of an inch. And the reaction whenever that was announced was priceless. I wish somebody had a camera going for that, because that was great.
Yeah, I won't say there was some boos in the crowd, but Dalton might have had a lot of fans pulling for him at that point, because it was down to you too.
Everybody pulls against the person that wins all the time. Hell, if I was in tournaments and somebody's beating me every single tournament, I'm going to pull for the other guy. I 100% understand.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Now. Yeah.
He got some. I gotta have.
If I get second, if I get second again and you get first again, I'm poking a hole in your kayak.
Wait till Little Grassy. I love Little Grassy. That's my baby.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
I'll loan you the drill.
Now, Darren, so you've branched out a little bit since you've been successful in our circuit at a local level. You branched out with a couple national tournaments. Do you want to talk about that experience?
So I went down to start the year out. I went down to Lake Chickamauga, and I fished a native no limit bass tournament. So basically, it's no limit, as many fish as you can catch, and they just have to be over 14 inches, and you have just a normal time period to do it. And it's big bass too. So if you catch big bass for that hour, you get it. If it reaches a certain amount of people in the tournament, then it's $1,000 for every single big bass of every hour. It's a pretty amazing setup for a tournament. I really like the setup, but that fishing was tough. It was mid 40s all day long. I think it got into the 50s in the afternoon, but it was raining every day during practice, and the wind was blowing super hard. It was very tough fishing conditions. I only caught one fish, and I caught one fish. I think I got 60th place out of 133 people, and I had one fish. So it was very tough fishing conditions.
Wow.
But after that, I was already I got reached out from Remy. He's a guy in the KBT, which is kayak bass teams, kind of like league, I guess you'd call it. And we're in the North region. He reached out and asked if I'd be on the Illinois team, or one of the Illinois teams, which is the kayak. I think it's Midwest Bass Mob. Sorry. And he asked if I'd be on it, and I was like, yeah, I'll be more than happy. I love fishing. I mean, I love fishing tournaments. So we went to Banner Marsh to start off the season, and I went up there. And historically on Banner, I've had a couple tough tournaments and this, that, and the other. But I pulled out a really good day, and I think I ended up with like mid 90s, 93, 92 inches. So I had a really good day on Banner and ended up winning that one. It was only out of 12 kayaks, but it was 4 guys from Michigan, 4 guys from Central Illinois, and then us. And I pulled out the win on that one, and then went to Newton and pulled out another win there. So I went 3 weekends in a row. I won Kincaid with 90-something inches. Then I went to Banner the next weekend, won it with 90-something inches. Then I went to Newton and won it with 92 and a quarter. So, or 92 and 3/4. So I'm
you got
hoping
92 and a quarter.
Yeah. I'm hoping to go out and fish like the Hobies and the Bassmasters next year. I wanted to do it this year, but the funds just didn't really line up, and it wasn't going to make sense for me to do some of the tournaments because of how far away they were and the price of entry fees and everything like that. It just didn't quite line up this year. Hopefully next year I can. I'm gonna try to line up a couple sponsors if possible and try to help me afford to be able to go and fish some of them bigger tournaments. I really think I can start to compete in some of them tournaments. I told myself I wouldn't start fishing in some of the great big tournaments until I thought I could really have a chance at going out there and doing well every time. Now, I feel like I'm doing
awesome
right now.
Yeah, I'm on the KBT website. It's looking out at, what did you say the name of the team that you're on is again?
We're the Midwest Bass Mob.
Okay. There,
So-
there's several teams. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's a very cool concept. So it's 4 people on a team, and you go out and fish on a body of water against 2 or 3 other teams, depending on how many are in your region. So ours is the North region, and we have a team from Michigan, team from Central Illinois, and then we're technically Chicago, part of Illinois, but I'm not even close to that. And so whenever you show up at the tournament, you fish the tournament just like normal, but instead of being just your best 5 fish, individual and then conglomerate, your best 5 together and then you win, this is your best 10 fish overall. So as long, you can only submit 5 per person though. So I can submit my best 5 fish to the tournament, and if the other guys don't have anything that beats those 5 go to the total. But I can't put 6, 7, 8 fish towards the total. Somebody else has to catch some. So it really shows how good of a day your whole team had versus just one individual person. It's a very, very team oriented thing. I mean, you literally cannot do well unless your team does well.
Nice.
I really like it. I'm
there's-
hoping to next year get Southern Illinois a club. Hopefully we can get one. But only problem is I got my friends now that I made on Midwest Bass Mob, and if we make a Southern Illinois Kayak Club team into that, I don't know what I'm going to do. First, I got to qualify to be on the Southern Illinois Kayak Club team. I don't know if I'll make that, so we'll see.
Yeah, we'd have to take a vote or something, I would hope.
We'd have to take a vote. Heck, you guys would just say no to stop me from winning more tournaments.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking through the list of the teams here. I got the Berserkers Fishing Club, which it doesn't really say where that's from. Tar Heel Lunkers.
Yep.
Arkansas Hogs, Oklahoma Outlaws, the North Fork Privateers, then your team, the Midwest Bass Mob, Southwest Hurricanes, Alabama Hammers, and the V Anglers Bass Club, Motor City Ambassadors. So yeah, over.
It's a very cool concept, and in your region.
Yeah.
So you compete against your region, and then if you win, a certain amount of tournaments and you do good on a certain amount of tournaments, then you represent your region at the championship. And the championship has much larger payouts, much larger group of people, and
Okay.
it's just a much bigger tournament. I think it's going to be on Lake Callow this year. We're gonna try our best to try to make it, but I'm hoping to make that one. That's at the that's going to be at the end of October, based off what I'm hearing. But I got to be in Kansas to go guide waterfowl hunts again at the end of October, so I might not make that one.
Yeah.
And
What about you other guys? Have you had any experience fishing in the national tours? I have not.
Once I get to like Darren, then I'll make.
Then you may make that
I
bump.
think you would surprise yourself. I don't think you have enough confidence. Yeah, I think that's a lot of people's problem is they don't have enough confidence in their fishing. They just they go out and they're like, oh well, he always does good. He's so good at this. Or it doesn't matter who it is. I mean, you could be looking at a professional fisherman, somebody like just name your big names like Jacob Wheeler or anything like that. There's a fish. So you could be he threw it. You could be like any big name. All it takes is you going out there and having one really good day of fishing to make a name for yourself. That's all it takes in some of these big tournaments. I mean, you go to some of the Bassmaster ones, you win that's 150 to 200 kayaks in a tournament. You're getting a really nice payout, and people are going to see you. They're going to see, hey, he won this big of a tournament. He must be good at what he does. And I mean, I think if people had more confidence in themselves, it'd be a lot different in the kayak world. I just don't think there's enough confidence in people.
You know, I think that is a smart comment, Darren, because I've talked to people that and that I meet on the lake and local lake or whatever, and obviously they're bass fishing out of their kayak, and I said, hey, did you ever think of doing any tournaments? And the number one response I get is, well, I'm just not good enough for that yet. And I had the same thought for years, and I'm still not good enough for it, but I'm really enjoying myself fishing tournaments.
And
So,
are you learning stuff by going to tournaments?
Oh, absolutely.
You don't learn
you
stuff
just don't
fishing by
know.
yourself. I mean, you do, but you don't learn
Exactly.
nearly as much.
Yeah.
Especially the way our tournaments are set up. Our tournaments are basically set up to teach people how to consistently do good in tournaments. I mean, you talk to almost anybody in our club, we're all open books. We're all going to tell you basically exactly what we're throwing. There's not many secrets in our club. There's one or two people that probably will be a little hush-hush, but most people in our club are going to tell you everything that they're doing. Heck, I've given baits away many times just to try to get people to catch fish. I had, whenever me and Caden were fishing during practice, he went by me and he was struggling. He was out there a lot longer than me, and I just found the bite a whole lot sooner. And I was trying to put him on the fish, and he was struggling a little bit, and then his pedal drive broke, and that really ruined his day. He was ready to leave the day before, too. He's like, my pedal drive broke. I'm going home. And I told him, I was like, just stay. I said, I literally won cedar with no pedal drive. It doesn't take a pedal drive to win a tournament. It doesn't take a motor to win a tournament. You guys are probably getting annoyed to hearing my voice.
Nope.
No, as long as you're winning, we'll listen to you. How's that?
So what did you do, Jared? How did you catch your fish during the tournament?
You know, actually, I caught my two biggest. I had a 19.75 and I think an 18 and a half. I think I caught both those on Minimax chatterbait. And Jonathan should be smiling when he hears this next statement. My other fish all came on a jig. It's the first time I've ever used a jig really in a tournament more than about 10 minutes. And
look at this.
No, Jonathan can do it. I can do it. Oh yeah.
That's a huge scar.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. A jig, if the fish are eating it, you're going to win tournaments with a jig. That is a tournament winning bait.
Yeah.
Free fish, I caught 12 fish over 17 inches on a jig. I absolutely massacred those fish the day before, and then went back and caught another 92 inches of fish out of the same spots.
Yeah. It's definitely a skill. I think people, and me myself included, I love the idea of constantly being in action, constantly, that power fishing. that everybody wants to do. But I don't know. I the older I get, I guess the more calm I get, and I don't mind being slow and methodical with something like a jig on the bottom, dragging that thing especially when the conditions are like they were from Newton. It's like you're just coming off a pretty strong storm system, dumping a lot of water in the system and stuff. So worked out.
So you can do two things a lot of times after big cold fronts like that. You can either slow your profile down, so throw a jig, just slow it down a lot, or you can do what I was doing and throw a much smaller profile, so the worm that's not intrusive at all, and a fish sees that go by its head, they cannot say no to a worm going by their head. I swear it's impossible for a largemouth to say no to a wacky worm going by its head or a Nico rig going by its head.
I think it just triggers that predatory instinct, man. They just can't control it. It's one of the reasons why I don't crappie fish. I bass fish. I like fishing for the predators in the water.
If you get a live scope, crappie fishing becomes a lot more fun.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh boy. Oh, I just jumped off like an 18-incher. God dang. That was not good.
So I did do an experiment. I bought one of the bars that goes across your kayak to hold the different graphs and stuff. I ran across one that was pretty reasonably priced that Yak Gadget makes. And I picked one up, and I put my 9-inch graph on that, and I love the location of the graph. It's sort of like what Jonathan's got his setup as, right straight in front of you. But it introduced a lot of other problems for me. That it made some problems, made more problems for me than it solved. So, where are you guys mounting your electronics in your boats, your kayaks?
Right here on my right side.
Okay, just right on the gunnel.
Yep, right in front of me. I don't know how well you can see.
You just have one screen for your everything.
So normally I have two. I'll 9 times out of 10 I'm running I have a 7-inch one that has down scan and side scan, and then right above that I have another one that's the 9-inch with my live scope. So right now, since I'm on this small body of water, I brought the live scope. I don't need it. I just like to be able to see where the grass lines are. But I could come here blind and catch fish. It's a very, very, very good lake.
Nice.
Evidently come here and lose fish too. I'm not hooking up with them too well today. Second nice one I've missed or lost.
Yeah. All right, you guys got any other questions you want to throw out for your fellow competitors?
You want to see a big one for the camera?
Heck yeah.
It's not a giant, but it's a nice one.
Nice.
Very nice fish. That's a 16.5 centimeter fish. Nice belly on it. Sorry. Right off the beat.
Hey, that's the biggest fish caught on the podcast yet. So
basically, I just take my finger and point at a map. I'm like, yep, I'm going there. I have everybody's like, oh, I do this. I study the depth map, study this. And during the summertime, that's definitely going to help. But this time of year, I just go fish. I don't think about it. I knew historically on Newton, the cold arm always holds bigger fish, but a lot of the times the cold arm can be very tough to get bites. If the bite is dead, the cold arm is a dead arm. You cannot get bit over there. I know a great representation of that is, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago now. Reese and I actually finished first and second. We both fished the warm on that day. Everybody that fished the cold arm caught 1 fish, 2 fish. I think Glenn went there and caught 1 19-incher. It has bigger fish, but pre-fishing is so big at Newton because the warm arm is good whenever it's super, super cold weather outside. But then if it's warm weather, you've got to be in the cold arm or you're not going to catch the bigger fish most of the time.
Yeah, and that's one of those coal-fired plants that are either going to be shutting down slowly, or there's going to be an adjustment time there.
I'm excited to
'cause
see
they're
what
just
that
not
does.
Yeah.
I think Coughing's still struggling. I think that you got one point that a lot of the big fish in the lake do pull up on, but I think the whole lake as a whole has smaller class fish. But I think in the next couple of years, it's really those fish are gonna grow, and it's only gonna get better. I think Coughing is definitely on the up and up, as opposed to like Cedar, where Cedar has a lot of big fish, but not a ton of replacement size fish. Cedar's it's at the top of its game right now, but it's going to be going down here in the next couple of years. So if you're thinking about fishing Cedar, I'd go there within the next 2 or 3 years, because it's probably gonna have a pretty hard downhill slide.
I suppose it's just those cycles that most bodies of water go through some sort of cycle.
Oh yeah.
And we heard whenever we had biologists on here talk about the concern about Cedar with the lack of with the shore stabilization projects going on, with additional rock being put on the shorelines, the lack of natural the wood that would not be falling anymore into the lake. So that's going to rob the lake of some nutrients, log some cover, things of that nature. So that's going to be a factor too. So,
Yeah.
No, another thing I told this has nothing to do with what we were just talking about. No, I told Caden while we were in the hotel room, I believe. Me and him shared a hotel room before the night before, and I told him in the hotel room, I was like, I think a lot of people make the mistake of whenever they go fishing, they aren't casting at one spot. They're casting, I'm fishing this bank, I'm just gonna bomb cast this bank. Whenever I'm fishing a bank or fishing anything, I'm aiming at something every single cast. I'm always trying to hit something, trying to bounce it off that log, trying to bounce it off those reeds, trying to hit something, because the fish are very rarely are just roaming. I mean, sometimes they do just roam and you'll get bit like that. But a lot of times they're resorting to something. They aren't just on that bank for no reason. They're there for something. So if you're aiming at that log, or if you're aiming at that tree, and don't just fish that log one cast, go on. If you fish that log 4, 5, 6, 7 casts, and you could pull a fish off it 3 of those casts, and the fish, they stack up on cover a lot. And I think a lot of people are missing opportunities to catch fish on a lot of banks. I'm going to break a rod except like this.
So now, when you say, pick a spot, are you most of the time trying to throw to that spot, or pass it and bring your lure past that spot?
So in my mind, if I'm casting at a log, I'm going to hit as far back into that as I possibly can without thinking I'm going to get snagged. Either that, or if you fish throughout a day and you find out these fish are really deep in cover, try to get that bait snagged. Try to throw that jig as deep as you possibly can in that log jam, because those fish, they get way back up in there. I've caught a lot of fish, especially on Cedar, where you would not believe that fish could even survive in that little of water. Their backs are sticking out of the water. Oh, boy. These fish are eating so hard right now. They are hitting this bait like a freight train.
Well, I'm quite a ways north of you, but we got a lot of wind here today. You obviously have partly sunny conditions going on there. You're getting a lot of wind.
Yeah, so that's part of the reason I chose this lake. I thought about going to a bigger lake, but this lake is very small, and it caters to a south wind. There's a lot of trees on the south side of the lake, so it doesn't get a lot of wind. I mean, there's ripples on the water, and I don't know if you guys can hear the wind. It's definitely howling up high, but it's kind of in a bit of a bowl here, and it keeps a lot of the wind out.
Okay. Awesome.
And there's giants in here.
Well, and there's giants. That doesn't hurt anything, does it?
It's an hour away, and I absolutely love coming here.
Well, we can just stay online another hour and watch you fish, I guess.
I can bigger one.
Fish.
Not giant, but bigger.
But okay, here's another question for you, Darren.
Okay.
How much of your success, anytime we talk or you post all the time on our messaging groups, you are always, seems like, fishing all the time. How much of your success do you attribute to just time on the water?
Oh, it's huge. So I grew up, I didn't have somebody to teach me how to bass fish. I have never fished off a boat because I didn't have, my dad, he loved fishing, but he catfished. Nobody in my family largemouth fished, and they still call me absolutely dumb for not bringing largemouth home to eat. But I grew up fishing a little bitty pond just down the road from my house. I've talked about it before. And every chance I got, I was out there trying something new, trying to catch fish, because I absolutely love setting the hook, getting that fish in, and just looking at how beautiful these fish are and how much different they look from one lake to another, and how like the color. So I don't know if you guys have noticed, the color of these fish in here are pretty dark. They're very, very dark fish because it's a shallow lake with a lot of grass and it's pretty clear water. And that makes the fish stay up high in the water column. So me being on the water all the time, I'm seeing these different weather conditions, the different fish they eat during different weather conditions, where the fish are eating during different weather conditions. I'm seeing all that, and you can have somebody tell you, oh, throw a chatterbait when there's wind on the water, throw a spinnerbait when there's super high wind on the water, and chop and whatnot. You can have somebody tell you that, but until you're out there fishing that condition, you words mean nothing. I can sit here and preach on how I throw a chatterbait, but until you get out there and throw a chatterbait and really take the time, I had multiple days where I only brought my chatterbait rod. I didn't bring another rod with me because I wanted to hone my craft at chatterbait fishing. And I got very, very good at it. At the my first tournament of Southern Illinois Kayak Club was the May month long, and I was throwing a chatterbait during that, and I caught well over 100 inches of fish. But I was catching every one of those fish in less than 2 foot of water all month long, super shallow. And I found that bite by forcing myself to fish that bait where I wanted, where the fish were. I mean, you're not going to learn by sitting on the couch. If I get an hour to get out and fish, I'm going fishing, guaranteed.
Nice, great advice. Great advice.
People are probably getting sick of hearing me talk, but
no, Dalton, Jonathan, do you have anything to add to those comments about the value of that time on the water? Awesome, Dalton.
Yeah, like what he said, like he'll take one rod with just one lure and just go out. I've done that multiple times. Same with the chatterbait. Like what? I think beginning of last year, he just kept slaying them. I'm like, all right, screw it. I'm gonna fish a chatterbait. I hate throwing them, but I'm gonna throw them. Then I finally actually got a hang of it now. Now I'm working on the frog.
The bait that I need to force myself to fish is a Texas rig. I hate throwing a Texas rig, and it makes no sense because it's similar to a jig. I cannot stand throwing a Texas rig. And there's going to come a day where I get my ass handed to me because everybody else was throwing a Texas rig and I wouldn't.
Oh, yeah. There's just something about a Texas rig.
That's just horrible.
I like it better than a jig.
It's one of those baits that just gets bit.
Guys, I've had you on here about just shy of an hour, and I know we're all sick and tired of seeing Darren catching fish while we're looking at a computer screen.
Come join me. Next podcast,
Yeah,
come
love
join
to.
me. I'm more than happy to share.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the next one, I think we've tried to do multiple on the water podcasts before, and things just haven't worked out for weather throughout the state because we're usually between where Caden's at in the far north and where you guys are at down south. There's probably 250 miles difference.
Oh yeah.
So we will get that done though. But I want to thank each of you for taking time on a Saturday afternoon. We're a week downstream from that tournament. Congratulations on a great performance at Newton. We look forward to seeing you guys at the next tournament, which I believe is Sankerus, maybe?
Sankerus on May 11th, I think.
Yeah, Sankerus. So
get ready for another gun show. That's going to be another 88, 89, 100, or 90 inches. It's going to be a gun show.
Yeah, I'm excited. That's actually the closest tournament ever to my house, so that I can actually sleep in my own bed that night. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'll have to ask you guys to hold on after we stop recording. See if Darren finally pulls in that 20-incher he keeps telling us is in that little lake he's in.
They're here.
They're here. All right, guys. Thanks again for joining us, gentlemen.